You've done it again. You can feel it happening even as you do it. That familiar twist in your stomach. The way your hands shake slightly as you type the message that will end everything. The relationship was finally working. The job offer was on the table. The peace you'd been chasing for years was right there, within reach. And then you pressed the button, said the thing, made the choice that you knew would destroy it all. And now you're sitting in the wreckage, asking the same question you've asked 100 times before. Why do I do this to myself? You're not broken. You're not cursed. But there's something inside you that seems to come alive the moment things start going well. Something that whispers you don't deserve this, that it can't last, that it's better to destroy it yourself than wait for it to fall apart. And you listen. Every single time you listen. It always happens in that space between getting what you want and actually having it. You've landed the interview. The person you like says yes to dinner. Your bank account finally has breathing room. The therapy is working. The family dinner goes well. And that's when it starts. This strange, crawling anxiety that feels nothing like relief. Your mind begins to race. What if they realize I'm not qualified? What if they see who I really am? What if this good thing makes me soft, makes me forget how to survive? So you do something. You show up late, you pick a fight, you spend money you shouldn't spend, you push and test and probe until you find the weakness that will bring it all crashing down. Because that feels familiar. That feels like control. You know how to handle failure. You've practiced that your whole life. But success, happiness, peace, those are foreign countries, and you don't speak the language. 2,000 years ago, a slave named Epictetus sat in chains and understood exactly why you do this. He had been beaten by his master until one of his legs was permanently damaged. He owned nothing. Not his body, not his time, not even the clothes on his back. Every external thing that people chase for happiness had been stripped away from him. And yet, he discovered something that his wealthy, powerful students couldn't grasp. The thing you fear most isn't losing what you have. It's discovering that having it doesn't change who you are inside. Epictetus watched free men sabotage themselves over and over. He saw them destroy marriages, abandon opportunities, and reject love. Not because they didn't want these things, but because they were terrified of what would happen if they got them and still felt empty. A slave understood what freedom looked like, and he saw that most people, given every advantage, would choose their chains. The thing that upsets people is not what happens, but what they think it means, Epictetus told his students. But he understood something deeper. Sometimes we're not afraid of what will happen. We're afraid of what won't happen. You sabotage the relationship because you're terrified of the moment when you realize that even being loved completely doesn't fix the hole inside you. You blow up the job because you're afraid that even success won't make you feel successful. You destroy the peace because you know that even when everything is perfect, you'll still be you. With all your fears, all your doubts, all the parts of yourself you've been trying to escape. The self-sabotage isn't random. It's brilliant, in a twisted way. If you destroy everything right before it gets good, you never have to face the devastating possibility that getting everything you want won't actually save you. Epictetus saw this. A man who had nothing could see what people with everything couldn't. You're not afraid of losing, you're afraid of having. Or some things are within our power, while others are not, Epictetus wrote in the very first line of his manual for living. But here's what he knew that you haven't learned yet. You're not just attached to getting what you want. You're attached to what getting it will make you feel about yourself. You don't just want the relationship, you want to be the kind of person who deserves love. You don't just want the job, you want to be the kind of person who's successful. You don't just want peace, you want to be the kind of person who doesn't need to struggle anymore. And the moment you get close to having these things, you realize that the external stuff, that the relationship, the job, the peace, that's not actually up to you. Other people can leave. Companies can downsize. Peace can be disturbed. But there is something deeper that terrifies you. Even the way you feel about yourself when you have these things, That's not up to you either. That depends on 1,000 factors you can't control. So you destroy it first. Better to be the person who ruins good things than the person who discovers that even good things can't save you. Epictetus understood tyranny. He lived under it. His master controlled his body, his labor, his very life. But he discovered something that would revolutionize how humans think about freedom. The worst tyrant isn't the one who controls your external circumstances. It's the one who controls your internal response to getting what you want. This tyrant has convinced you that your worth depends on outcomes you can't control, that you're only valuable if people stay, only successful if companies keep you, only worthy if nothing ever goes wrong. And because you believe this lie, you live in constant terror, not of failure. You know how to handle failure, but of success that might not last, of love that might leave, of peace that might be disturbed. So the tyrant whispers, destroy it first, stay in control. Better to choose your own suffering than have it chosen for you. Epictetus, who couldn't choose anything about his external life, found a freedom that people who can choose everything never find. The freedom from needing externals to validate your internal worth. When I see someone in anxiety about the future, I say, this person is anxious not about things that are present, but about things that may happen, Epictetus observed. But your anxiety isn't even about what might happen. It's about what might not happen. You're not afraid the relationship will end badly. You're afraid it will go perfectly and you still won't feel perfectly loved. You're not afraid you'll fail at the job. You're afraid you'll succeed and still feel like a fraud. You're not afraid peace will be taken from you. You're afraid you'll have peace and still not feel peaceful. This is the cruelest prison of all. Not being trapped by your circumstances, but being trapped by your fear that even perfect circumstances won't set you free. So, you sabotage. You break out of the prison by burning it down. But here's what Epictetus knew, that you're only beginning to learn. The prison was never the circumstances. The prison was the belief that circumstances could ever be your salvation. And you can't escape a prison of beliefs by changing what happens to you. You can only escape by changing what you think it means. One of Epictetus's students once asked him, Master, why do I destroy the very things I pray for? Epictetus smiled, not the cruel smile of someone who enjoys another's pain, but the gentle smile of someone who recognizes a familiar wound, because you believe that getting what you want will change who you are, he replied. And somewhere deep inside, you know it won't. So, you destroy it before it can disappoint you. The student was confused. But I do want these things. I want love, success, peace. No, Epictetus interrupted gently. You want to not need love, success, and peace. You want to be the kind of person who already feels complete. And you're trying to use external things to become that person. The room fell silent. But here's what you must understand, Epictetus continued. You already are that person. You were that person before you got anything. And you'll be that person after you lose everything. The externals don't create your worth. They reveal what you already believed about it. The student began to weep. He had spent his whole life destroying his chances at happiness because he was afraid happiness wouldn't be enough. Freedom is the only worthy goal in life, Epictetus taught. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. But the freedom he's talking about isn't the freedom to get what you want, it's the freedom from needing to get what you want in order to be okay. This terrifies you, because if you don't need the relationship to feel lovable, what if you discover you're not? If you don't need the job to feel successful, what if you realize you've accomplished nothing? If you don't need peace to feel peaceful, what if you find out you're fundamentally anxious? These questions feel like death. And in a way they are. They're the death of the story you've been telling yourself about who you'll become when you finally get what you want. So, you sabotage. You stay in the story where you're the person who could have been happy if only you hadn't ruined it. That story, it protects you from the more terrifying story. You already are exactly who you're supposed to be, right now, with or without the things you think you need. Epictetus, who had nothing, discovered he needed nothing, and that discovery made him freer than any emperor who ever lived. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end, Epictetus taught his students. But you've been so focused on beginnings and endings that you've missed the middle, the actual experience of having what you want. When the relationship is good, you're already thinking about how it might end. When the job is going well, you're already planning for the next one. When you finally feel peaceful, you're already bracing for the next crisis. You've trained yourself to live everywhere except the present moment. And the present moment is the only place where you can actually experience the things you've been chasing. This is why you sabotage. You're not destroying your future happiness. You're destroying your current inability to be present with it. Epictetus understood this. As a slave, he couldn't control his future. His master could sell him, beat him, or kill him at any moment, but he could control this moment, this breath, this thought, this choice about how to respond to what was happening right now. And in that control, he found something you keep missing. The actual experience of peace isn't in getting external circumstances right. It's in being present with whatever circumstances you have. There's something you haven't admitted to yourself yet. You're not just afraid of losing what you get, you're afraid of the responsibility that comes with having it. When you have the relationship, you have to show up every day. When you have the job, you have to perform every day. When you have peace, you have to choose it every day. It's easier to be the person with potential than the person who has to live up to that potential. Epictetus saw this in his students constantly. They came to me wanting to become philosophers, he would say, but they were terrified of actually being philosophers. Because potential is infinite, reality is specific. Potential never fails because it never tries. But the moment you have what you want, you have to face the gap between who you imagined you would be and who you actually are. So you sabotage. You go back to potential, back to the safety of maybe someday, if only. But here's what Epictetus understood. The gap between who you imagined you would be and who you are isn't a problem to solve. It's a human experience to accept. You were never supposed to become perfect. You were supposed to become present. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength, Epictetus wrote. But you've been using this teaching backwards. You think that if you destroy things yourself, you're exercising power over your mind. If you choose the pain, you're choosing your response to outside events. But this isn't power, this is the illusion of power. Real power isn't destroying good things before they can disappoint you. Real power is being present with good things without needing them to be perfect or permanent. Real power isn't avoiding the pain of loss by choosing the pain of self-sabotage. Real power is accepting that all external things, relationships, jobs, peaceful moments, come and go, and that's not a bug in the system. That's the system. Epictetus lost everything a human can lose. His freedom, his health, his physical comfort, but he found something you're still looking for. The ability to be okay with things being temporary, to love without possessing, to succeed without grasping, to find peace without demanding that it stay forever. The moment you stop trying to control outcomes, you discover your actual power. The power to be present with whatever comes. Here's another truth you haven't faced. You sabotage because you're not just afraid of losing what you have. You're afraid that what you have isn't enough compared to what others have. The relationship is good, but not as passionate as the movies promised. The job is stable, but not as prestigious as your college friends' careers. The peace is real, but not as constant as the meditation teachers make it sound. So you destroy it. If you can't have the best version, you'll choose no version at all. Epictetus watched his wealthy students do this constantly. They had everything: money, status, beautiful homes, powerful positions, but they were miserable because they were always comparing what they had to some imagined perfect version. Contentment is natural wealth, he told them. Luxury is artificial poverty. He meant that the moment you start measuring your good fortune against someone else's, you've made yourself poor regardless of what you actually have. You sabotage not because what you have is actually insufficient, but because you've trained your mind to see insufficiency everywhere. The problem isn't that your good things aren't good enough. The problem is that your mind has forgotten how to recognize good things when it sees them. Every time you sabotage, you reinforce a story about yourself. I'm the kind of person who can't have good things. I'm the kind of person who ruins everything. I'm the kind of person who doesn't deserve happiness. These stories feel terrible, but they also feel safe. Because if you're the kind of person who ruins everything, then ruining everything makes sense. It's consistent with your identity. Epictetus understood the power of the stories we tell ourselves. Every art and every inquiry, and similarly every action and pursuit, is thought to aim at some good, he taught. Even your self-sabotage is aiming at some good, the good of maintaining a consistent story about who you are, even if that story is painful. But here's what he knew that you're learning. You get to choose your story. And the story, I'm the kind of person who ruins everything, is no more true than the story, I'm the kind of person who deserves good things. The difference is that one story leads to more sabotage, and the other leads to more presence. You've been choosing the first story because it feels more familiar, but familiar isn't the same as true. Right now, in this moment, you can feel it building again. Something good is happening in your life, or about to happen, and that familiar anxiety is starting to whisper, "This won't last. You don't deserve this. Better to end it now while you still have some control." This is the moment Epictetus trained for his entire life, not the moment when everything goes wrong. He knew how to handle that, but the moment when everything might go right, and you have to choose between presence and sabotage. When something happens, the only thing in your power is your attitude toward it, he taught. You cannot control the event, but you can control how you respond to it. The event isn't just external circumstances. The event is also your own mind's reaction to good fortune, the anxiety, the fear, the urge to destroy. These are events happening inside you, and you can choose your attitude toward those events too. You can notice the anxiety without obeying it. You can feel the fear without feeding it. You can recognize the urge to sabotage without following it. This is the freedom Epictetus discovered in chains. The freedom to be present with your own mind without being controlled by it. Wealth consists in not having great possessions, Epictetus taught, but in having few wants. This isn't about money. This is about the practice of recognizing when you have enough. Enough love, enough success, enough peace, enough exactly as things are right now. You sabotage because you've never learned this practice. You've learned the practice of more security, more validation, more proof that you're okay. But you've never learned the practice of enough. Enough doesn't mean you stop growing or wanting things to get better. It means you stop tying your worth to outcomes you can't control. It means you can be in a good relationship without needing it to prove you're lovable. You can have a stable job without needing it to prove you're successful. You can feel peaceful without needing it to prove you're healed. This practice terrifies you because it asks you to find worth in something that can't be taken away, lost or destroyed by your own self-sabotage. The simple fact that you exist, that you're here, that you're aware, that you can choose, in this moment, how to respond to whatever is happening. Epictetus, who had nothing external, discovered this was actually everything he needed. The deepest courage isn't the courage to pursue what you want. It's the courage to stay present with what you have, once you get it. To not run when the relationship gets real and complicated, to not quit when the job gets challenging and routine, to not destroy the peace when it reveals how much anxiety you were using to feel alive. Epictetus called this the discipline of action, the practice of engaging fully with your actual life instead of the fantasy life you're always about to have. Don't explain your philosophy, embody it, he taught. Your philosophy up until now has been, I'll be happy when, I'll be peaceful when, I'll be worthy when. But embodying a different philosophy looks like, I am here now. This is enough now. I am worthy now. This doesn't mean you become complacent or stop growing. It means you stop making your presence conditional on circumstances being perfect. The courage to stay present with imperfect good things is the courage that transforms self-sabotage into self-acceptance. And self-acceptance is what you were really looking for all along. Not in the external things you chase, but in the person who's been chasing them. Here's what Epictetus discovered that you're just beginning to understand. The story doesn't end when you get what you want. It doesn't end when you lose what you want. It doesn't even end when you stop sabotaging what you want. The story ends when you realize there was never a story that needed to end. There was never a version of you that needed to be fixed before you could be happy. There was never a set of circumstances that needed to be arranged before you could be peaceful. There was never an achievement that needed to be unlocked before you could be worthy. The person you are right now, with all your patterns of self-sabotage, with all your fears about deserving good things, with all your anxiety about the future, this person is already whole. Not broken and trying to become whole, not damaged and needing to be fixed, already whole, just temporarily confused about it. The self-sabotage was never really about the external things you were destroying. It was about destroying the illusion that external things could save you from yourself. And now that the illusion is gone, you can finally stay present with what you have. Not because it's perfect, not because it will last forever, but because presence is what you actually wanted all along. Tomorrow the urge will come again. Something good will happen or be about to happen, and that familiar voice will whisper, destroy it before it disappoints you. But now you know something you didn't know before. That voice isn't your wisdom, it's your fear disguised as protection. And you have a choice. You can listen to the voice that says you don't deserve good things, or you can listen to the voice that says you deserve to be present with whatever comes. You can choose the familiar story of self-sabotage, or you can choose the unfamiliar story of self-acceptance. You can destroy what you have to maintain control, or you can stay present with what you have to discover freedom. Epictetus spent his life teaching one fundamental truth. You are not your circumstances. You are your choices. Every moment is a new choice. Every breath is a new beginning. Every time you notice the urge to sabotage and choose presence instead, you become a little more free. Not free from having problems, not free from uncertainty or impermanence, or the basic human experience of wanting things to be different than they are. But free to be present with all of it. Free to be yourself in the middle of it. Free to stay when every instinct tells you to run. 2,000 years ago, a slave sat in chains and discovered that freedom had nothing to do with circumstances. He lost everything a person could lose, and in that loss, he found everything a person could find. The unshakable knowledge that who you are doesn't depend on what happens to you. That knowledge echoes forward through time, looking for people who need to hear it. People who destroy good things because they're afraid good things can't save them. And people who sabotage success because they're afraid success can't make them successful. People who push away love because they're afraid love can't make them lovable. The echo reaches across centuries to find you in this moment with this choice. Will you keep trying to solve yourself by controlling your circumstances, or will you finally accept that you were never a problem that needed to be solved? Will you keep destroying what you have in service of who you might become, or will you start being present with who you already are? You are not your patterns, you are not your fears, you are not your history of self-sabotage. You are the awareness that can witness all of these things without being controlled by them. You are the presence that remains when everything else changes. These are the echoes of Epictetus, and they were always meant for you.